Hello and welcome to this video on the family life cycle. On the screen, you will see the family life cycle as it was created back through work in the 70s and 80s. Now, I want you to notice what's missing from this. Divorce, single-parent families, all sorts of different types of families that are very, very common. And some of them were still very common in the 80s, the single parent families. There were a lot of men and women raising children who had never been married. There were plenty of blended families, families of divorce. All of those were going on in the 70s and 80s. So this particular life cycle, and the one that we still use today, is pretty much based on the traditional nuclear family. But I think it's important for us to see this for juvenile justice, just so we know that this is what's considered the healthiest for child rearing. And there actually are some studies that suggest that a child that is raised in a two-parent home, an intact, that means not divorced, two-parent home, is less likely to have mental health issues or delinquency issues. Now, there's some research. Now, notice I said there's some research, but that research was done on previous generations. The current generation, we really haven't had a good body of research to replicate that. So, just want you to understand that part. But when you get a juvenile, okay, so we're going to talk about the family life cycle, but all the others as well. So, when you get a juvenile, let's say you're a juvenile probation officer, and you get a 15-year-old, and you're working with this 15-year-old, and this 15-year-old might have been caught doing things at school that they shouldn't have done. There might have been graffiti, and there might have been sexual things put in the graffiti. They might be bullied, and they might have made threats to the people who are bullying them. If you're ever working with juveniles like this in the criminal justice system, I want you to hopefully step back and remember this class and remember these stages of development and think about, where is this child in relationship to their psychosocial development? Were they able to resolve the conflicts and the stages that led up to the stage they're in? In Erik Erikson's model. With Piaget, has their thinking, their brain development, their ability to form cognitions, has it developed the way that it should have, or is it delayed from where they are? Their moral development, which is related to their cognitive development, but where are they? At which stage really are they reasoning morally? And then consider where they are with their family. How does their family context affect them? But also go outside the family context, and how does their school context, their neighborhood context, larger community context, how do all of those contexts affect where they are in their development? Remember, these are teenagers that are growing and developing. And in fact, the U.S. Supreme Court in Miller v. Alabama, as well as other decisions related to juveniles in the last 20 years, have acknowledged that because they're juveniles, they're still developing, therefore they're more amenable to treatment, while at the same time, they're more vulnerable to peer influence. So think about those things when you're working with juveniles. Very important that you consider all of that when you're working with juveniles, because when you do that, you're able to start to give some grace. In other words, in your mind, you're able to understand why they might be acting the way they are and intervene. You might be able to form better interventions. We'll see you next video.